Before I got married, I had a whole picture in my head of what I thought marriage was going to look like. I and my husband have a lot of things in common, so how hard could it be, right? And then I got married and I experienced the shocker of my life. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Hey guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Grace. If you're seeing my beautiful face for the very first time, please do not make it your last. Consider subscribing. You're going to have a great time on this channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my experience with marriage. I've been married for a couple of months and it has just been a journey of learning, relearning and unlearning, and I just want to talk about it. Marriage is such a beautiful thing when you're married to the right person. So this is not a video to bash marriage or anything, but it's pretty much about speaking about my reality and something that you might be able to relate to, because I realized that for a lot of people, they don't like inform them about a lot of things before marriage. People just think marriage is something that can easily just be jumped into, or something that you just experience, but there's a whole different ball game, when you're married and when you're single. Like, those are two different things, because a lot of what we see online is the perfection, the perfect picture, the perfect family, the perfect whatever, but then deep down there are a lot of reality that comes with marriage. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing my own perspective from the wife perspective. I'm sure a man will have a different perspective, but this is just me sharing a perspective from the wife point of view. As a wife, adjusting to the new reality or the new identity can be overwhelming. We're talking about new location, new house, new environment, new name, new identity, new family. Like, everything is just happening at the same time. And what I realized is that it can be very overwhelming, because before I got married, I thought it's just like a normal transition from being single to married, but it's a whole ball game. But just having to, expand your heart to accommodate more people, having to have a new identity. I went from being a daughter, I went from being a sister to being a wife, being a daughter-in-law, being a in-law to other people. So my family expanded in a way. I moved to a new location, and that's something that I grieved for a while, because I miss my room. I miss I miss my room in my parents' house. But then obviously love my new room that I share with my husband now. But there's just this adjustment to the new reality, the new identity, moving from a different location. I don't longer stay in the same location with my parents. I now stay in a different location with my husband, and it's been amazing and not so amazing, because honestly, moving to an environment you don't grow up in, moving to an environment that you don't know people, it's a lot of adjustment to do. And some people have it easy for them, while some people like myself, struggle a lot to adjust to the new reality. There's also the part of change of identity. If you're going to be changing your name, there's going to be a lot of changes here and there. So marriage just comes with a lot of changes. Even before you start having kids, you start experiencing some changes. And I would like to point out that these changes are not bad changes. These are just changes that happens, like they just happen. And this is something I want to emphasize on in this video, because a lot of people just think that in marriage you are still going to be the same person. You're going to be the same person, quite all right, but there's also going to be some changes here and there, and adjusting to the new reality is one of those shockers that I experienced. Another thing about marriage is that you may grieve your old independence. Yes, and that is not to say that the marriage is bad or you have a bad spouse or whatsoever, but there's this independence that comes with being single. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just there, where you can do what you want, you can decide to make decisions and all of that. But when it comes to marriage, especially when you're in a good marriage, there has to be that level of dependency on your partner. And as a wife, there's that dependency on your husband in terms of making decisions, in terms of doing one or two things. Like, you just have to involve your husband in it. And even when you want to do one or two things, you first thing you're thinking about is about your husband or how he would react to a particular thing. When you're single, it's easy for you to make decisions. It might be a little bit difficult if you're being controlled, like really controlled by your parents, but for the most part there are lots of decisions you can make on your own as a single person. But once you're married, that freedom is not entirely there. In my own case, it's not a bad thing entirely, because my husband is very supportive and all, but then there's just this feeling that you just want to do something, like just go ahead and do it, but then you always have to, like I always have to remember that, oh, I'm married and I have a husband. I just can't make some certain decisions on my own. We have to make the decisions together. So this is one of the realities of marriage that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's not a bad thing entirely. I think where it becomes bad is when you get married to a partner that is like that's just decided to be a weapon fashioned against you. Where if you're married to a good partner, if you're married to the right person, if you're married to a kind partner, it's not going to be a hard transition, but then it will be something that would be a little bit tricky, because you're just used to being independent in a certain level, and now you're now dependent. I don't know if you get what I mean. Maybe you do. Another thing is that you could end up being clingy. Yeah, I ended up being clingy. In fact, I did not even know that I was a clingy person in the first place. I thought I was this kind of person that liked being on my own, until I got married and I realized that I was clingy. I was a bit clingy to my husband. I always want him to be around. I always want to be around him and all. So if you get married to the right person, there are tendency that you might be clingy at different points. And when I mean clingy, it's not about, hugging, holding hands or whatever. You just want to be in the same space with that person. You just want to be in the same location. You just want to be in the same room with your partner, and that's something really sweet. And at the same time, it can be really challenging, because it feels like you cannot function on your own without your partner being around. So this is one of the realities of some marriages, not all marriages, but it's one of the realities of my marriage. I realized that I was a bit clingy to my husband. I had to even learn how to detach a bit, because it was looking like I could not function without him being in the same room with me, which is sweet and can have its own whatever. Another reality of marriage is that marriage will not make you happy if you're unhappy, and that's the truth. If you're unhappy before you got married, marriage is not going to make you happy. The only person that can make you happy genuinely is God. Yeah, it's not money, it's not marriage, it's not anybody. If you're a sad person, if you're an angry person, the chances of you being like that moving on is going to be very high, because marriage does not make you happy. And if you're getting married because you think that you're sad, and when you get married you'll be happy, it's a different case. In marriage, you're going to have a partner, and by God's grace, an amazing partner, but there's actually not a lot they can do for you for the most part. You still need your friends, you still need your family. Your husband cannot be your everything, because I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, and that's the orientation a lot of wives have before they get married. So they assume that their husband is going to be their everything, their husband is going to be their best friend, is going to be their this, their that, and then when they get married, they're like, ooh, he's not going to make you happy all the time. He's not always going to be the chocolate that you like or your favorite ice cream. So that's just reality of marriage, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the reality of it, that a man is always going to be a human being. So we are all humans, and you're not even always going to make your partner happier as well. So it's not a bad thing. It's just one of the realities. So if you have that thing at the back of your head that, oh, when I get married I'm going to be so happy, you're going to be happy if you want to be happy, if you decide you're going to be happy. But putting or placing your happiness on one person, on a human being like you, it's not going to work. The reality of marriage is that you're going to get naked. Now, I don't just mean physically naked. Of course, you get physically naked, if you know what I mean, but you're going to also get naked in terms of your flaws, your insecurities, your good and the bad side is going to be all right in front of your partner, and that of your partner is going to be in front of you when it comes to marriage. It's just like naked and not ashamed, like everything is there. If you have that bad character that you've been pretending to hide, when you get married, it's going to be obvious. You cannot hide anymore, you can't pretend anymore. One way or the other is going to come out. So people just think that when they get married they're going to change, or they don't like a particular thing, or they like a particular thing, and when they get married it's going to be different. Chances of that being different is a lot slimmer, because in marriage it's all about nakedness, it's all about being transparent. Whether you like it or not, it just happens. Like you're just being yourself. When it comes to marriage, you don't have to be uptight, you have to just be yourself, you have to just open up, because what is the point of getting married if you cannot open up? Many people think that when they get married they can always just have that privacy. Well, newsflash, in marriage is not such thing as privacy. Of course, there are some marriages that they may exhibit that, but I don't know what kind of marriage that is. But for the most part, marriage, the way it's designed is, there's no privacy in marriage, the way it's designed. So that's something that I also got to realize. Another reality of marriage is that communication is not an option. Like, communication is not even an option. It's something that you have to do every day as long as you're married, except maybe the kind of relationship or marriage you have is quite dynamic. But for the most part, you have to communicate about everything about your life, about the household, about pretty much everything. Communication is just the key. Like, you have to keep talking, you have to keep communicating. Talk about finances, talk about housekeeping, talk about work decisions, career. Have those hard conversations. Like, you just have to talk about it. When I was single and I was dating, there are sometimes I don't want to talk about something and I'm not pressured to talk about it. But in marriage, you just have to open up. And I open up and I tell my husband. Sometimes when I'm even feeling a certain kind of way, he could let me be for a while and then come back, but then there sometimes he's there and he's like, what is going on? We have to talk about it. And I learned that as well. When he's going through stuff, I stay by him and I make sure that he's okay. And if he doesn't want to talk about it at that time, I want us to talk about it at the best convenient time for him, but we are definitely going to talk about it. So that's something that marriage does. You just have to communicate, and even in the communication you have to learn how to communicate in the right tone, communicate at the right time. In this marriage, I'm learning a lot about communication, timing and tone as well, because there's a way you communicate that can be misinterpreted. There's a method you communicate, there's a timing you communicate, and it's not just right. So communication is actually not optional in marriage, and that's the reality of it. Another reality of marriage is that love and respect becomes a decision, and it's a decision that you make regardless of how your husband reacts, regardless of how your husband behaves. Like, I realized that love is something that we can actually do unconditionally. It doesn't have to be attached to something, and that is how the love of Christ is. God loves us regardless of our imperfection, regardless of our flaws, regardless of our mistakes. He just loves us, and that's how I have come to realize that marriage is. So you love unconditionally, you forgive even before they ask for forgiveness. And I think that's one of the things that actually makes marriage a happy home, where you are more open to loving, and you're more open to forgiving, and you're more open to just being there for your husband, for your partner, without it being transactional, without it being with condition, if that makes sense. And that's one beautiful thing about a beautiful reality about marriage. So these are some of the realities I've experienced and I've learned and I'm learning in marriage, and it's such a beautiful experience. Honestly, it can feel very overwhelming. In fact, it can feel like all this and all, but to be honest, when you're married to the right person, it feels worth it. When you're married to your person, everything just makes it worth it. But it doesn't make it easier, because I believe that marriage is like a phase, and even in the marriage there are like different phases of newlywed. You go from newlywed to having kids, and then raising kids, and then the kids going to university, getting married, and it's just you and this person alone again. So marriages have like different timelines, if that makes sense. But then it's important that we have this reality checks in mind, especially if you're not married yet and you're just wondering what does marriage look like. Marriage is beautiful, but then it has some realities, and these are realities that I have shared. These are just some of them. If you're married and you have other realities you like to share, please leave them in the comment section so we can all learn from it as well. The goal of this video is to educate unmarried women so they can know what it feels like being married, because it's not it's not all glamorous. Okay, Pastor Mildred, one of my favorites, would say that marriage is work. Like you're getting married to work. You're not just getting married to relax. You're getting married to work. You're getting married to work on yourself. You're getting married to be a better version of yourself, and also to help your husband. You're a helpmate to your husband. So I hope you learned a thing or two from this video. If you did, let me know in the comments, and I'm going to be interacting with you from there. I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye.